Okay, this is not part of the Breaking Down the Walls series. This is just something that I feel I need to talk about now, um, based on the understandings that are out there, um, from many other uh, ministers or um, people in general. Um, this is to talk about where we're at right now. Are we in the tribulation? Have the seals been broken? Have they not been broken? Are we uh, getting into the trumpets? The whole entire talk about where we are at in this day and age and at this very moment. Now, um, there are some pretty high up ministers that are talking about this specifically because people want to know. I completely understand. People do want to know. People are afraid of the things that are going to come about. Um, so, what I'm going to do right now, this might be a long video. Just to warn you, this may be a long video because I want to be able to go through it all. Um, I'm going to show you some things that are just not talked about biblically in any circle, and I do mean any circle. Um, and the reason for that is because it's just not known. It's just not known. Okay. Um, so, hold on for a couple seconds. I need to put my glasses on. Uh, so, in able to start breaking this down, we have to understand what happened when the Messiah left. Now, I may not be able to find all these passages because I do not know the Father's word by book, chapter, and verse. I know it in my heart. I know what it says. Um, so I can speak from it in that aspect. But I'm not going to be able to show you some of these passages or where they are exactly at. You will have to study this on your own to find out where they are. You can use words that I use within what I say to look up what I'm talking about. There's many different ways that you can study what I'm saying. Okay. So the first part is what happens when the Messiah leaves? Okay. The Messiah states himself in the Gospels where he states that he has to leave because if he doesn't leave, then the ruler of this world cannot come. Okay. So what is he talking about, the ruler of this world? Well, he's referring to the first seal, the one who has come to conquer and to. Uh, Let me just read that back to you real quick. Okay. Um, uh, Revelations. Like I said, this might take a little bit. Okay. Now, he's referring to specifically in that instance where he states that he has to leave so that the ruler of this world can come. He's speaking directly about the first seal. Now, the first seal is Revelations chapter 6, 1, 1 and 2. Okay? And this is what it states. And I saw when the Lamb opened the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, come and see. Okay? And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given to him. Talking about the spirit of the Antichrist, talking about uh, the adversary himself. Okay, he's been given a crown. He's a ruler of this world. And he went forth conquering and to conquer. Okay, so the Messiah is specifically stating that when I leave, the ruler of this world will come. That is the breaking of the first seal. The ruler of this world is the one who comes to conquer and to conquer. Okay? Going on that understanding, when do the seals actually start becoming broken? Well, we're going to go over a little bit of history of this as well, about what happened when the Messiah left. Okay? We understand that there wasn't peace, complete peace on the earth when he was here. There was a lot of tribulations that he went through and so on and so forth. Okay, tribulations, understanding that tribulations is persecution. Okay, as he states that just as I was persecuted, you will also be persecuted. Just as much as he went through tribulation, you also will go through tribulation. Stating that you will not be raptured. There will be a point in time where you will have tribulation. Okay, within your life. And most of you probably already have. Okay, but does that mean that it's resulting to the tribulation that it talks about in Revelations and throughout the rest of the Bible? Probably not. So this is what he states in Matthew 28. He states in verse 18, and the Messiah came and spake to them, saying, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. Okay, meaning that he has the power over heaven and of earth to do as he sees fit. So when he proclaims that the ruler must come after he leaves, he has the power to make that happen. Go ye therefore, or go you therefore, and teach the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even until the end of the world. Meaning that his Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the Father's Spirit, the holiness of spirit that proceeds from the Father and the Son, will be here with us throughout the world, throughout all the ages. He states the same thing in Mark chapter 16. Okay? Verse 15. Go you into the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believes and is baptized will be saved, but he that believes not will be damned. And these signs will follow them that believe in my name. They will cast out devils, they will speak with new tongues, and they will take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing, it will not hurt them. They will lay hands on the sick, and they will recover. So then after the Lord had spoken to them, he was received up into heaven and sat on the right hand of God. And they went forth and preaching everywhere, the Lord working with them and confirming the word with signs following. Amen. So, at this point, during the ascension in Mark 16:9, it says, so then after the Lord had spoken to them, he was received up into heaven. Okay, I must go so that the ruler of this world will come. Okay, he goes up to heaven. What happens? The ruler of this world has come. Okay, you find that out in the first seal, the one who comes to conquer and to conquer. So for all those who are stating that the first seal is not broken, they're teaching wrong. Biblically, it's completely wrong. And then looking again at Luke 24, stating the same things. Let's go to verse 44. So Luke chapter 24, verse 44. And he said unto them, or to them, these are the words which I spake to you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled which are written in the law of Moses and in the prophets and in the Psalms concerning me. That's what he means by all things must be fulfilled. Okay? He doesn't state that the law or anything else is done away with. He states that everything that has been spoken about me must be fulfilled concerning me. And nowhere in the Old Testament does it state that he's going to come and take away the law. Okay, so we need to get that out of our heads. Going on, then opened he their understanding that they might understand the scriptures. So he fully opened up the spirit of understanding within them to understand all the scriptures, and said to them, this it is written, and this is behooved the Messiah to suffer and to rise from the dead the third day, and the repentance and remission of sins will be, or should be, preached in his name among all nations, beginning at Jerusalem. And you are witnesses of these things. And behold, I send the promise of my Father upon you, which is the Holy Spirit. But tarry you in the city of Jerusalem, or stay in the city of Jerusalem, until you are endued with power from on high, meaning the Holy Spirit has come upon you. And he led them out as far as Bethany, and he lifted up his hands and blessed them. And it came to pass, while he blessed them, he was parted from them and carried up into heaven, and they worshipped him and returned to Jerusalem with great joy, and were continually in the temple, praising and blessing God. Amen. It came to pass, while he blessed them, he was parted from them and carried up into heaven. He was carried up into heaven. In the moment that he was carried up into heaven, within the same moment, the spirit of the ruler of this world has come, the one to conquer and to conquer. Okay? Going on. Going on to Acts. Speaking about what happens when the Messiah leaves. Okay? Going on to Acts chapter 1, verse 6, and going on from there. When they, therefore, were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, will you at this time restore again the kingdom of Israel? And he said to them, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father has put in his own power. Now, stating that the Messiah and the Father are equal because they are one entity, stating that the Father has put in his own power, therefore it is also in the Messiah's power, stating from before where the Messiah states that he has power over all heaven and earth. Okay? But you will receive power after that the Holy Ghost has come upon you. Okay? This is talking about what was going to come to them and so on and so forth. Okay? What we just read in the past passages. And you will be witnesses to me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and unto the uttermost parts of the earth. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. At this moment, the spirit of the adversary has come into the world. Okay? And we're going to look at history and see what that looks like. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven, and he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, you men of Galilee, why stand you gazing up into heaven? This same Messiah, which is taken up from you into heaven, will so come in like manner as you have seen him go into heaven. Okay? The same exact way that he went up into heaven, being caught up into the clouds, it also states later on that he will also come back in the clouds. So this means that he's not going to be born again. This means that he's not going to live another life. Okay? He was seen physically going up into the clouds, and he will be seen physically coming back down from the clouds. So all those who sit there and state that the Messiah is here, the Messiah is there, the Messiah was just born, or so on and so forth. If he did not come in this manner, if he was not given to the world in this manner, that person is not the Messiah. That person is probably an anti-Messiah. A anti-Messiah, not the anti-Messiah. Okay? Going on, because I don't want you to mislead my words. Because I know exactly how people are. They twist everything. Okay? Going on. So what happens when the Messiah ascends into heaven? Okay? Well, it states exactly what happens when he enters into heaven. Okay? And it states in chapter 5 of Revelation, this is what happens when he leaves the earth and is carried into heaven, or brought into heaven, or whatever which way you want to state it. And it states in chapter 5, and I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof? And no man in heaven nor in earth. Okay? So, it's literally stating that there is no one on the earth who can open these seals, and there is no one in heaven who can open these seals. So it's stating that at this very moment, the Messiah was in transition in between the two. Therefore, he was not in heaven and he was not on earth. Okay? This is why it states, no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereupon. Okay? He was in transition, in between. So he was neither in heaven nor on earth. And it states, and I wept much, because no man was found worthy to open and to read the book, neither to look upon it. Verse 5. And one of the elders said to me, weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Now, behold means look, means there he is, means that's the one who's going to be able to. Meaning that at that moment, at that very moment of this passage, that's when the Messiah came into heaven. At that very moment, from the time that he left earth, he came into heaven. And at this very moment, the elder states, behold, look, he's right there. The root of David has prevailed. Prevailed as in he died, he rose again, he conquered death and sin. Which death is sin. That's our punishment for sin, is being given to death. To open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof. So, immediately, when he's come into the presence, all this is being taking place. The Father has the sealed book in his hand. You got the Messiah just appearing, and they're talking about opening of the seals within the moment of him being there, or coming into heaven. And it states, and I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb. That's where the behold thing is. And it says, I beheld, because of what the elder told him. He said, look. And John is stating, I looked. And lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as it had been slain. A sacrificial lamb. In this case, in all actuality, a scapegoat. Because only a scapegoat offering was able to offer up sins for all. A sin offering by itself is a personal sin offering and is only for that one person. Okay? Having 7 horns and 7 eyes. Okay? So he has 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth. Now that's the proclaiming of the eyes. Okay? That the eyes are the window to the soul. Okay? So these 7 eyes are the 7 spirits that go forth into all the earth, proceeding from him. Not exactly proceeding from him, but coming from his ordinances and his commands to go forth. And he came and took the book out of the right hand of him that sat upon the throne. Okay, so this is the picture that we should have from these right now. The Messiah came into heaven. John was told to behold, he was right there. He beheld him, or let me put it in modern terms. He was told to look, that he was right there. And John looked, and as he was looking, the Messiah came and he took the book out of the right hand of him who sat on the throne, which is the Father. In the very moments he entered into heaven. Going on. And when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps, it's actually harp, and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of the saints. And they sung a new song, saying, You are worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof. For you were slain and have redeemed us to God by your blood out of every kindred, tongue, and people and nation, and have made us to our God kings and priests, and we will reign on the earth. And I beheld, and I heard the voice of many angels round about the throne, and the beasts and the elders, and the numbers of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands. Now I've calculated this, and it is a very huge number. I do not know it off the top of my head, but it is very vast. It is a very vast, long number, and I don't know the actual wording of what the number is. I just know it in writing in letters, no, writing in numbers. Okay, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing. And every creature which is in heaven and on the earth and under the earth, and such as are in the sea, and all that are in them, heard I saying, blessing and honor and glory and power be unto him that sits upon the throne, and unto the Lamb forever and ever. And the 4 beasts said, Amen. And the 24 elders fell down and worshipped him that lives forever and ever. So, after he receives the book from the Father, okay, all of heaven goes into praise and worship over the Lamb, over the Messiah. Okay? But then what takes place just after the praise and the worship? Well, we get into chapter 6, verse 1. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, Come and see. Now we need to understand that the Messiah has power over all of heaven and all of earth, and all things under the earth. Okay? So, he left earth, he went into heaven, he took the book from the Father, he was praised for it. Then the first immediate thing he did was break the first seal, which brought in, as he proclaimed in the Gospels, that he has to leave so that the ruler of this world may come. Going on to verse 2, and I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, or to him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. This is the ruler of this world. The ruler of this world who has been here ever since the Messiah ascended into heaven and broke the first seal. Now we're talking about these are moments, okay? Now reflecting on human time frame, this all happened within moments of each other from the understanding of how it's written here. But this is all spiritual. And spiritual timing and physical timing are two very different things. Okay? So now we need to look at, what does this reflect in the physical realm? Because the spiritual realm has influence on the physical, but the physical has no influence on the spiritual. Meaning that you cannot physically harm a spirit. You cannot sit there and choke them. You cannot sit there and throw them around. You cannot do anything, because they are spirit, and spirit is wind or breath or air. You can brush it around all you want, but you're not going to do anything physically to it. It's still going to be there. It's still going to be manifested in the same aspect that it always has been. Okay? If you have an apparition show up in front of you, that apparition will still be an apparition regardless if you put your hands through it or anything else. It will still maintain its spiritual posture and its outline and form. You have no control over it. But the spiritual has control over the physical, because they can do things within the physical realm. They have power to move things. They have power to allow people to hear, and so on and so forth. They have power into the realm of the physical. Okay? So this is what this is all stating. Okay? The spiritual realm, because of this right here, now has influence on the physical realm. So now, what's going to happen is that this rider has to be known. You have to be able to see it physically. Okay? So what does this physically look like? Well, one who goes out to conquer and to conquer means war, means conflict, means he's trying to start to build his kingdom. Okay? So, from the moment that the seal was broken, you see this throughout history, how the enemy has started to build his kingdom slowly. Okay? We see this with the Pharisees, who proclaim after the Messiah's death and resurrection that the Messiah was not ascended or did not rise from the dead, but that his followers came and took him in the middle of the night. Okay? That's a lie. That is the first instance that we should understand that the enemy has come into this world to conquer. He is trying to change history by stating this. Something that physically happened, he is now changing it, stating that no, it didn't happen. This is what happened instead. That's changing history. That's changing the facts of what really happened. Okay? It's called history revisionism. So going on, when you start to understand that is the first instance of the adversary coming into this world and having power in this world, this is how he starts to work on those same lines. He starts to change things here and there until we get to where we are now. He also creates conflict wherever he goes. Okay? There was already small conflict already happening in Jerusalem at this time, where we have the sects within the Jewish uh, order, um, people who have decided to pick up arms and so on and so forth, fighting against Rome. Okay, this is not saying that all the Jewish people were fighting against Rome. No, these were just certain sects within the Jewish world or Israel that were fighting against Rome. Okay, well, what does this lead to? It leads to a bunch of conflict. This is one of the reasons why um, Caiaphas stated that it should be good for one man to die for the nation, because of all these different sects creating all these problems and chaos. Okay? Now, it started to come into its fullness when in 70 AD Jerusalem was destroyed by Titus. Okay? This is all historical information. So we should be able to see that these are the things that the one who conquering and to conquer has come to do. He's come to change things, to rework history to his benefit, to create conflict, and to set up his own kingdom. These are the things that the one who has come forth conquering and to conquer is to do, the ruler of this world. Okay? Going on from 70 AD, conflict continued for a very long time, like almost like 100 years, from the time the Messiah left to the time that the conflict was finally halted by the Romans, meaning that they killed off majority of the people who were fighting against them, majority of uh, the people who believed in the Messiah, um, the apostles, all those who followed the apostles, and so on and so forth. This is the end of the first church age, of the original church age that we find in Acts, that Peter, James, and so on and so forth set up after the Messiah had left. This was the persecution that Rome not only killed off messianic believers of the Messiah, but also Jewish people as well. Okay, this is all written in history, and you can find this out. Then, going on, you have the Council of Nicaea, where Rome took the Father's word and started implementing other religions into it to get those other religions or other people compliant to Roman rule. This was all a strategy. And even at this point, the enemy or adversary has been trying to change things to set up his rule in his kingdom. So we should prominently see that in these moments, the first seal has already been broken from that time. Now, the first seal will not come into its completion until the one who comes forth to conquer and to conquer comes forth conquering and to conquer has actually set up his kingdom. Okay, this is a long process. He's the father of lies for a reason. He comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. These are his only motives, his only heartfelt feelings and desires. And you can see that recorded from the time the Messiah has left all the way up until now. Well, now people sit there and say, well, what about all the wars and everything that happened before? Those weren't for building up his kingdom. Those were holy wars and so on and so forth against the people of God and against the people of the world, or against one another. There's always been war. There's always been conflict. Because people are not exactly the same. We all have our own opinions and our own understandings, and so on and so forth. So that will breed conflict. If one person believes this and another person believes something completely opposite, they're going to be in conflict with one another. That conflict can begin wars. Or if one believes that they're better than the other and the other one is lesser, the one greater wants to subjugate the one who is lesser, becoming ruler over. This is how wars are made. All throughout history, it's all about power. This is what the one who comes forth conquering and to conquer is taking. Power. Okay? So going on from the Council of Nicaea and the wiping out of the Messianic order from the beginning, you get things like the Roman Catholic Church, who has stemmed up out of this. You get the changing of timing and days and laws and so on and so forth, in which the Roman Catholic Church has put into place. Changing the Father's word, changing, say, the Sabbath from what is known by the Jews as Saturday, as the seventh day, and changing it to the Sabbath Sunday. Okay? That is a change from what the Father's word states. No man, regardless of who they say they are, has the power to change any part of the Father's word at any point in time, no matter what authority they claim. And claiming the authority still does not give you any right to change anything the Father has proclaimed from the beginning. So therefore, something like that should have never been changed. Practices and so on and so forth. All those things that have been put out. Anything that has been changed from the wording of the Father's word and how we should be living our lives is a change that should not have happened. Because it is a change that man has created. These are all things that show forth the one conquering and the conqueror. Building upon his kingdom. Knowing the fact that he needs a ruling body of religion to stir up the people into one mind and one heart and so on and so forth. He understands all this stuff. He understands how he needs to infiltrate and how he needs to beguile and cause deceit by using the truth and twisting it into deception, so that the truth you hear, which is deception, you will believe it to be truth. That's how the enemy works. Okay? So we know that the first seal has been broken, that it will come into its completion when he has finally set up his kingdom. So it goes on and says, and when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see. So immediately after he opens the first seal, he opens the second seal. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and they that should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. Okay? This is talking about war. This is talking about conflict between one another, between nation and nation. Civil unrest is talking about all of it. Anything that has to do with conflict. Okay? This stems from the one who comes forth conquering and to conquer. By taking peace from the earth, meaning that people are fearful for their lives because people are trying to kill them for whatever reason it may be. Or even if it's just for the simple fact because somebody wants something that you have. It's the same thing. This has been happening for a very, very long time. Very long time. You can look at history and see all this stuff. It's not a mystery. Not anymore. We've already lived through it. We've seen the depressions. We've seen the civil wars. We've seen the wars between nations. We've had World War I and World War II. That's the type of conflict that it's talking about. It's talking about Auschwitz. It's talking about the Nazis. It's talking about all the history that we've had so far. He was given to take peace from the earth, and they would kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, immediately after opening the second seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. Now we've seen this in history as well. We all know in America there was the Great Depression. But before that, there was other types of depression back in the Middle Ages when food was running scarce and so on and so forth. Going on, talking about the food, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see you hurt not the oil and the wine. That see thou hurt not the oil and the wine, that actually was spoken about. If you look into history and the wording of historical people, hierarchy, historical people within those time frames, there is a person who states, do not hurt the oil or the wine. Do not destroy it. Do not harm it. Do not do anything to it. Make sure that it's okay. You'll find that out somewhere around the Middle Ages time, where there was a lot of conflict going on, and there was many cases where food was very scarce. This also happened in Italy when the West and the East fell from power. East and West Italy, or the Roman Empire, fell from power. You'll see this going on as well. Okay, so all throughout history we see this happening. Now here's the difference between these seals and what it talks about in Matthew about the birth pains. Okay, when they first start out, they start out small, and they increase in intensity and the amount of, I believe you understand where I'm going at. Okay, in the amount of how many times or how often these things occur. Okay, it also is talking about that instead of it taking place in small places here and there, that eventually it will take over the whole entire world. Okay, so these are things that eventually, when the birth pains, when she is ready to give birth, will be world events. World events that have never been seen before and never will be seen again. World events like we're dealing with right now with the coronavirus, where it has transcended every nation on the earth. It is a world event. All these things will eventually be world events. And when they become world events, she is ready to give birth. Okay, I hope you understand the reasoning on this. So, going on, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given to him over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the field. Okay, with the beasts of the field, there's two different ways that you can die from the beasts of the field. Either A, they kill you straight out, flesh to flesh, or sickness comes from them, like the plague that has happened, like this coronavirus that is happening. Okay, the only difference between the plague and the coronavirus is that the plague was God made because of all the things that the world was doing against the saints of God. Okay, all the martyrs that they've created, and the blood overflowing all the way up to the bridle of a horse. Then you have the coronavirus, which, yes, was incubated within animals, but in able to gain the incubation, it had to be put there in the first place, which means man's tampering, which means that this was all orchestrated by men. And there's many reasons why they chose to do this. So we should understand that these four seals have already been broken throughout history. Okay? Now people are proclaiming, well, no, the Antichrist has to come back, or the Anti-Messiah has to come back before all this actually takes place. You know, you can't break the seals until he's already been here. The spirit of the Anti-Messiah, the adversary, has been here since the Messiah left. That's what the Messiah states. That's what it means. It's not my fault whether or not you want to believe the things that I'm saying. But it is your fault if you do not decide to do your diligent study and check up on it. I know the things I know because I've been allowed to know them. Not just because I sought them out, but because I've asked, I've knocked. I've done everything that I possibly could to want to know the Father more. Not just his plans, not just the things that he has done or the things that he is doing or the things that he will do. This all just stems because I want to know him more. And because of that want to know him more, he allows me to know certain things. Now, does that make me higher in understanding than anybody else? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That just means that my understanding is not their understanding, and it won't be. Because it can't be. Because I don't deal with understandings of the flesh. I don't deal with understandings of human understanding and calculating how things should or should not be. I just don't do it anymore. Because I don't see it. I cannot see it anymore. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I cannot see the way men see things, regardless of who you are. I can only see things in the way that the Father sees it. So going on, where are we at right now? If all this stuff has already happened, where are we at right now? Well, there's already been martyrs for the Messiah. There's already been many who have died for the cause and so on and so forth, even many still who die even to this very day. But even that hasn't come into its fullness, meaning that it has to be a world event, meaning that it has to take place on every nation along a route at around the same time, causing the birth, or causing the birth of the woman in travail. So going on those lines, we're looking at verse 9. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. Talking about the apostles and all those who were part of the first messianic order in the first church. Okay? How we should be obeying the Father's word. They were cut off. This is what it states when it says that the Messiah was cut off. It's not talking about just him dying. It's talking about his message being cut off. It's talking about everything that he taught has been cut off and has been distorted. That's also what it means by the Messiah was cut off. Okay, and going on, it says, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, do you not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? Well, he has been. On occasions, he has conducted his wrath upon man because of the things that they've done. You can go look in history for all this stuff. That's if you want to study. That's if you want to learn the truth. Instead of continuing in the lies that you want to continue in just because they feel good. Or just because it's all you know. It's all you've been taught by other men. I don't listen to other men. Honestly, I do not listen to a single person because if it is not biblical, it does not make sense to me at all. That does not mean that I don't hear what people have to say. I hear what everyone has to say. But I do not and I will not take anything said as a belief from my Father. I have to get my beliefs directly from my Father, not from someone who claims to know him. Now, I'm not stating that you don't know him. I'm just stating that I'd rather get my information from the source than the spring at the very bottom of the mountain after the fact of where the water actually came from. I'd rather go to the pinnacle of the mountain and get the water myself than to have somebody else go get the water for me. So going on, and it says in verse 11, and white robes were given to every one of them, and it was said to them that they will, or should, rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren will also be killed, as they were, should be fulfilled. So this has been continuing, even in this very day, with terrorism, the beheading of followers of the Messiah. Okay? Regardless if that information that they have may be false, just proclaiming that you do not follow a certain religion, that religion wants to kill you. Okay? You don't even have to be a follower of the Messiah in that case. You just don't have to follow or want to follow their religion. And that there is enough to have your head cut off. Okay, we all know exactly what religion I'm talking about. Okay. Now, let's just say that you're an atheist and you don't believe in any of this, even though the fact enabled to be an atheist, there can't be a God. Okay. For you to be mad at, or for you to say that there is no God. You can't be mad at somebody if they don't exist. Okay? You can't have your feelings against religion if the spirit or the ruler of that religion or the king or so on and so forth does not exist. So going on, that was the fifth seal. So we should see through history that yes, those who have been martyred have been given white robes. Okay, and those who have been continued being martyred as we go along through history. Even the dumping of the Jews and the Messianics in the sea by the Spaniards, and so on and so forth. These are all historical events. These are all things that you can go back and look at. And I recommend you do. I recommend you learn your history. I recommend you understand the things that are taking place, not just now, but things that have taken place before. Remember is one of the biggest things the Father talks about. Okay? Remember. Meaning, go back and look at. See what happened. Understand what happened. So we should understand that this seal has also already been broken from the very first persecution of the first church. Okay? Going on. And I beheld when he opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black in sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree cast her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. I really wish that everybody actually studied the Father's Word like they should, because you can go back. Scientific knowledge states that as the years go by, these things are increasing exponentially throughout the years from the time of their first known occurrences. Okay? And in this day and age, they are become extremely increasing to where we have earthquakes daily with huge numbers of earthquakes known throughout the world. Daily. Even more so than was the last year or the year before that, and so on and so forth. They are increasing in number and in strength. Okay? And the sun became black as sackcloth. Well, that's talking about an eclipse. Black as sackcloth of hair. Okay? It's talking about eclipses. Now, lately, within the past 10 years, we've had more eclipses within these past 10 years than we've had in the past 50 or so years. Now you can go look that up. I'm not joking. I don't sit here and lie. I've done these studies. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I want you to go do these studies. I want you all to go out and find out these truths. Prove me right or wrong. That's all I'm asking. Prove me right or wrong. And I will guarantee that you will prove me right. Because I've already gone over the information. I know what's out there. I know the disinformation that's out there, and I know the actual correct information that's out there. Now, depending on which one you decide to follow, will depend on whether or not you believe the things that I'm saying. You have to deal with that, not me. I know the facts. Those things I follow with all that I am. I deal only in facts. And the stars of heaven fell onto the earth, even as a fig tree cast her untimely figs. Now, stars as it's talking about stars, it's actually talking about like meteorites and asteroids and stuff like that hitting the Earth. Okay. Now, we know from history that this has been happening for a very long time. Okay. But we also know that recently they've been happening in more number and in greater intensity. I mean, it almost seems like there's not a couple years that go by that you don't hear of an asteroid hitting or a meteor hitting Earth. Or a close flyby, or so on and so forth. But we're talking about those that actually break the heaven and come in and hit into Earth. Okay? They are also increasing in number and intensity throughout the years. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Well, this has been happening all the time. Okay? With the tectonic plates and so on and so forth. Everything is always constantly moving. Okay? And the heaven departed as a scroll, as in it has been rolled up. When you look and you see a huge, monstrous storm coming, those clouds, they billow over and over and over as if they are growing or receding as they move. This is the scroll that it's talking about. That when you look into the heavens, you see the heavens departing as a scroll. These are massive storms. Now, we've seen massive storms, and they've also been increasing in number and so on and so forth. We've had more hurricanes hit the East Coast and Southeast more lately within the past 10 years than we've had in the past 100 years. They are increasing in number and frequency. But you can also go back into the past and find out when the first times that these are recorded happened, and so on and so forth. I recommend that everybody goes ahead and does that. So we should understand that by now that, yes, these scrolls, all the way up until the sixth scroll, have already been opened. They just have not come into their fullness yet, meaning they have not become world events. Okay? They have to become world events for the next part, being the trumpets, to come into play. This is what we're waiting on. We're waiting on these things to become world events. Okay? Now, the one, to conquer and to conquer, that has become a world event. You have the UN and so on and so forth. You have organizations that are trying to create a one world government and all that other stuff. Okay? That's in the works. Okay? That's coming to its fullness. Then you have the second seal. About one given power to bring fear upon the earth and to have everyone kill one another, and he's been given a great sword. We understand that that's all been happening for a long time. We've had the two biggest ones, World War I and World War II. Those are two world events. Okay? Now, everything about God, when it comes down to being truth or being a finishing of something, he always does it in threes. And people are also looking for that World War III, which seems, from the way that things are going right now, that that's just right around the corner. Okay, all the turmoil, all the fear, everything that's coming out of everything that's going on between nation and nation, between what's going on within everybody's own nation, it's all leading to a boiling point that will lead us into World War III. That's just a fact. So going on, that still has not come into its fullness because it has not come to its completion of its work, meaning we have not seen World War III yet. So going on, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts talking about the third seal being broken. Okay, we've seen pestilence and famine before in history. Okay, but what's going to be taking place here shortly will become a world event. There are many out there right now starving because of this event that's taking place with the coronavirus. And because people are not out there working and providing these things that all people need, we're coming to a shortage of things. Okay? And because of the shortage of things, like you've already seen, that some stores have asked like ridiculous amounts of money for items so that people don't go ahead and start buying them. Like one store, I can't remember exactly which one it is, stated that due to toilet paper shortages, that if a person comes and takes one roll, it's at the regular price. But if they decide that they want to take more than one roll, then that next roll and every other roll after it will be over $100 some odd for that roll of toilet paper, regardless of what size you're buying. It will be over $100 to get that roll of toilet paper if you want more than one package of toilet paper. Okay, that's crazy. But that's what happens when you're in shortage and not everyone's getting the same as everyone else. Meaning one person over here will have like 100 packages of toilet paper, while this one person over here has one roll left and he has no means, or they have no means, to gather any more. Or whenever they go to the store, it's empty. I'm not just talking about toilet paper. I'm talking about everything that you go to the store to buy to provide for yourselves. Toiletries, food, cleaning materials. It doesn't matter what it is. So going on, this is just absolutely ridiculous. Going on to the fourth seal. Okay, we are actually seeing the part with the beasts of the earth having power to kill humans. That is actually a world event as of right now. Okay, but the part to kill with the sword, that has to do with World War III, and also has to do with civil unrest, and also has to do with religious persecution, and so on and so forth. Okay, those have to be world events. We have not seen that as world events up until now, meaning that it has to cover the breadth of the earth. And to kill with sword and with hunger. Okay, we're dealing with that now, with people not being able to provide because they're not making money to be able to go buy these things. Even some people already had problems with money prior to, where they didn't have jobs or anything. They were already starving. These people are dying by numbers that are not even calculated by anyone in this world right now. I have not seen any news item stating hundreds some odd thousand people died of starvation due to the stay-at-home order of the coronavirus, or or the fact that they don't have means to be able to buy things because they don't have money because they don't have any jobs. That's happening right now. That part is a world event. And with death, okay, and with death, okay, hundreds of thousands of people, over hundreds of thousands of people are dying daily, and it's not even recorded because this coronavirus is so hyped up and so out of proportion that the rest of the news of what it's causing is overlooked. So we're dealing with world events now and not just little things here and there. So then you have those being killed as martyrs for the Father and Messiah and the understandings that they have. These have been events in the world for a very long time, but nothing to the extent of what's going to happen shortly. With the persecution literally knocking on your door. So there are parts of these seals that have not come into the fullness yet. Okay? So then where does that leave us with tribulation? Okay? If the seals are the birth pains, well, where are we at in tribulation? Okay? Where we're looking at the tribulation beginning with what it states in Matthew chapter 24. And I'm going to start reading from verse 9 in chapter 24. Then will they deliver you up to be afflicted, and will kill you, and you will be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Now this is part of the fifth seal, and has not come into its completion yet because it's not a worldwide event. You do not hear of thousands upon thousands of people dying in every nation in the world because of their religious beliefs about the Messiah and about the Father and the understandings that they have. This is not happening in its fullness yet. And then will many be offended and will betray one another and will hate one another. Okay, well, that's going on all the time. Okay, but we're talking about religious understanding and following of the Messiah and following of the Father's word. Okay, that's not happening in the extent that it's a world event yet. Now that has happened in World War II with Auschwitz and so on and so forth. Friends of the Jews and so on and so forth, or people who believed in the Messiah, were taken to Auschwitz by the words of other people. Okay? That's what we're going to be looking at, but in a world scale. Okay? And many false prophets will rise and will deceive many. Well, that's been happening for the longest time, even to this very moment in time where you have deceit from the churches, where you have misunderstandings, where you have people claiming that Paul done away with the law, where you have people stating that Paul is evil and he's the adversary or the child of the adversary and so on and so forth. You people just need to shut up. I'm sick and tired of hearing all the misunderstandings. You have no idea how angry it really makes me. And then you're asking yourselves, well, who's this guy? Who should we care? You know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The only thing that should matter is that my heart is for the Father's word. And my anger stems from that because it's not followed like it should be. That's the only thing you should be worrying about. Not how I feel about things, but because my feelings come from the Father's word and where my anger stems from because of the evilness of men. I hate the understandings of men. I absolutely hate it. Everything, how they reason, all of it. It doesn't matter. It does not matter to me anymore. Everything that comes out of a man's mouth to me is faulty. Everything that comes out of a man's mouth is not the truth. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you claim to be the most devout Messianic, Christian, Jew, or whatever type of religion you may be in. I don't care what you claim to be. I am not a respecter of you. I do not respect your understanding. I do not respect your feelings. Because when I really look into them, I do not see biblical understanding. I do not see biblical practice. I just don't see it. All I'm really trying to say is prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Prove to me that you can be more than who you say you are. Oh, I don't need to prove anything to you. That's right. You don't need to prove it to me. But I'm witnessing all this stuff, and I'm recording it to the Father, even though it doesn't matter if I record it to him or not, because he's already seen it all. He already knows what's going to happen. So going on, and because iniquity will abound, the love of many will grow or will wax cold. But he that will endure until the end, the same will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness unto all nations, and then will the end come. Okay. Now, tribulation begins when there's a worldwide tribulation. Tribulation is stated to mean persecution. So when there is a worldwide persecution, that's the beginning of tribulation. As it states in verse 9, then will they deliver you up to be afflicted, and will kill you, and you will be hated of all nations for my name's sake. This talking about the tribulations of those days. Okay? And it states in verse 29 in Matthew 24, immediately after the tribulation of those days, talking about everything that's been talked about from the time of persecution all the way up until the time where the Messiah proclaims immediately after the tribulation of those days. That's all part of the tribulation. Okay? You have men killing men, you have betrayal, you have people being offended, you have religious persecution, you have iniquity of men's hearts, abounding in love against the truth and love against what is right. You have the preaching of the Father's word throughout the world. You have what else? You have people proclaiming that the Messiah is here, the Messiah is there. You have false prophets, false messiahs. You have all this that we've seen in history, and even more so in this day and age with all this stuff happening in its fullness. Okay? If it were possible, they would deceive even the very elect. Well, the elect have been deceived. They have been deceived by the Roman Catholic Church and all of its understanding, and the passing on that understanding to all the other denominations of the world. Okay? Those are facts. Okay? Christianity follows after paganism, after paganistic roots of practices, of holy days, of understanding, of symbolisms, you name it. There is not a single type of paganistic thing that is not uh, what is the word I'm looking for? Um, well, I can't think of the word right now, but it has been placed into the religion by means of other men, by changing days, times, by changing laws. The laws include not just the obedience of the commandments and the statutes and ordinances that were created, but it also includes the holy days, things that we're supposed to be practicing. Okay? If you've not seen the videos of breaking down the walls, grafting in, I suggest you go watch them. You want to learn the truth? You want to know how the Father's Word really works? Then it's about time you start learning. Go and watch those videos. You will learn something. And you will learn just how far man has truly fallen from the Father's Word. So going on, we've also seen well, that's about it. That's what it talks about. Okay, in the passages we're talking about is Matthew 24, 9 through 28, where the Messiah states immediately after the tribulations of those days. Well, those days is talking about verse 9 all the way through verse 28. Okay, so let's just put this all together real quick. Majority of the seals have already been broken from the time that the Messiah ascended into heaven, from the time that he came into heaven and started breaking the seals after taking them from the Father's hand off the book. Okay? Now, I do understand that we have not gotten into the seventh seal. Okay? So this is what the seventh seal states in chapter 8 of Revelation. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of a half an hour. And I saw the seven angels which stood before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given to him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. And the angels took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. Okay. I personally have not seen any of this seal become broken as of yet. Not through history, not through any time frame or any biblical understanding. Okay, I've been all over the Father's Word, Not just reading it. I can't even count how many times I've actually read his word. I can't even count how many times now that I've studied all the different topics that one can possibly think of to study on the Father's word. I've been over the Father's word more times than I've been through out of all the other books that I've ever picked up in my whole entire lifetime. This includes all the books that you've picked up in school, mathematical books, historical books, English books, regardless. I am adding all those books that I've ever picked up to learn from, and all the other books that I've ever read. And this book right here overshadows all those books put together, extremely overshadowing them with how many times I've gone over it, read it, studied it. Now, people say, well, I do study the Father's Word, but then what they're stating is that in all actuality, they've read the Father's Word, because study of the Father's Word transcends not just the Father's Word, it transcends into all different characteristics of creation. The understanding of language, the understanding of heaven, the understanding of earth, not just the spiritual, but the physical aspects of all these things too, that all have to be studied. If you are studying the Father's Word properly, you should be looking to all parts of creation or anything that the Father's Word speaks about. Symbology, numerology, anything the Father's Word talks about. The enemy, learning about the enemy. Now, learning about them is not the same thing as practicing. You have to know your enemy. You have to know what your enemy is going to do, or you'll be taken off guard. There is not one part of the Father's Word that I have not studied in depth. But every single day, I still continue to study. Regardless if I've studied it 1,000 times, 10,000 times, it does not matter to me. The Father's Word is a part of who I am. I have to be connected to it to live. It's not just the understanding, it's life to me. It means everything to me. It means my breath. I'm not saying this just to be saying it. You can even ask all the people that I come across, what do I talk about the most? I don't go anywhere or talk to anyone without discussing the Father's Word. Some way, shape, or form, the Father's Word comes into the conversation. Because that's where my heart is. That's what my heart wants to speak about. I am the same on here in video, in Facebook, or any place else as I am in the physical realm with person-to-person contact. Nothing changes in my life. Not my understanding, not the way that I perceive things, not the way that I act upon things. I am the same always. Now, I don't want this to be all about me, because it's not. It's not. What this is all about is about the truth about where we are in this day and age. Now, I'm letting you know things about myself to let you know, I don't really know what I'm trying to let you know, because the bottom line is it's not going to matter to you. It's not. So I mean, why do I even waste my time? Why do I waste my time on a day-to-day basis studying 8 to 12 hours a day the Father's Word in every type of aspect that you can even possibly think about studying His Word, being guided by His Spirit into all these things, And to sit here and talk to everybody about these things, about them being actual facts, and then to have people sit there and look at you like you have no understanding whatsoever. I know the Father's word better than I know myself. I know the Father's word better than I know anything or anyone else in this world. I'm not saying that out of arrogance or pride. I'm saying that out of praise and worship, because He allows me to understand these things, because He allows me to study the way that I study. The bottom line is, I know exactly who I am. I know exactly who the Father tells me I am. I know the fact of things about other people. It's not just reading someone's heart to discern whether or not if they are following the Father's word or not. The spirit of discernment is not just about hearing someone speak or act and so on and so forth, and then you perceive from those things the truth. No, the Father allows you to know the truth prior to even meeting that person. That's the power of the Father. To know as He knows. That all things have been freely given to me, I have freely given to you. All things. All understanding that the Messiah has been freely given to you. Now, people are going to run with that and be like, oh, well, I know something so-and-so doesn't know. That may be true. That may be true that the Father has given you something that other people don't know. But don't be prideful and arrogant over it, proclaiming that you might be better or, well, be better than anybody else. Because you're not. You're all equals. Every single one of you are equals. Okay? I am not proclaiming to be above anybody else. I am the lowest of the low when it comes to the world, when it comes to living, when it comes to satisfying this flesh. I do everything in my power, to bring this body into submission. I let it slowly die. Because I know when it's weak, when it's hurting, when it's crying out for sleep, when it's crying out for food or drink or things that it needs to sustain itself for life, I know that I have power over it. I know I have power over its will, its desire, its wants, which is what will is. Will is one's personal wants, desires, and needs. I don't live my life like everybody else lives their lives. Period. I can't. I've been given a different, I don't even know what to call it. It's not a different path. It's not a different ordinance or law or obedience or anything else like that, or different understanding. The way that I live my life is in complete subjection to the word of the Father. Meaning that I will do whatever my Father asks me to do. And I know that many out there will claim the same thing. And it's fine. You can claim it. But then your life has to reflect it. And when I look into your life and I don't see that reflection, every man's a liar. Only the Father's word speaks the truth. That's what I rest upon. That's what I think about when I go to sleep at night. That's what I think about the first thing when I wake up. Literally, it is literally the first thing I think about when I wake up every single morning. I reflect on it when I go to bed. I reflect on it when I wake up. I reflect on it in every given moment throughout the whole entire day. As I told you all, this is my life. Not as a life that I'm living, but is the very breath of my life. I can't survive. I literally cannot survive without study of the Father's word. I go crazy. I literally start going insane. I start freaking out. It's like it's like a drug that you become dependent upon to carry on your life. This is how much of a part the Father's word is a part of my life. Now, I'm not an instructor because I claim to be an instructor. I'm an instructor because the Father has physically chosen me to be an instructor. He's called me by name. He's shown me the things that I need to speak about and the things that I need to teach on. I lead by his example. I lead by his guidance. I am an instructor because he has made me an instructor. Not because I've gone through education for it or anything else like that. Not because I felt the need or the want or the will to want to be a teacher. I did when I was younger, when I was around 16, 17, 18 years old. I did want to be a teacher because I felt the calling to be a teacher. But the type of teacher that he wanted me to be, I didn't want to be. I wanted to be just like every other minister. I wanted to go out there and save souls. I wanted to go out there and speak their truth. I wanted to continue in my debauchery of paganism and so on and so forth. I wanted to continue my life the way I wanted to continue my life regardless. By the age of 16, 17, and 18, when the Father was showing me the ministry that he wanted me to have, I didn't want any part of it. I did not want any part of it. I was afraid. I was afraid for my life. I was afraid for the things that I wanted to do in my life. Because of that, I ran from him. Because of all that, I ran from him because I did not want to leave the world's understanding of his word. So from the age of 18, I believe, is when I actually stopped trying to become a minister, and I walked away from the ministry. I became a youth pastor when I was 30 years old, and I was a youth pastor from the time I was 30 to the time I was 33 in Christianity. Now, that was not what the Messiah wanted for me. That's not the teaching that he wanted me to do. That's not the things that he was giving me to instruct. Okay? I was still following my own path, separate from what he wanted me to do. Up until the time that I was around the age of 33, where he stopped me, literally, physically, spiritually, mentally, stopped me in my tracks, put me face down on the ground, and spoke to me and let me know that it's time for me to begin the ministry that he wanted me to do, which is where all this ministry comes from. So now what you need to do is you need to calculate time. You need to calculate, okay, well, he ran from the ministry but for the time that he was 18, and then the ministry that the Father was giving him from the time of 18, and then he became into the ministry at the age of 33. That was my rebellion phase. I was being rebellious. I wanted to do things my way. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have kids. Okay? I wanted to indulge in my lust as a man. I wanted to have worldly things. And I sought these things within that time frame. But everything that I sought within that time frame was against everything that I was being shown when I was 16, 17, and 18. I wasn't meant to have all that stuff. I wasn't meant to get married. I wasn't meant to have children. That was not part of what the Father wanted for me. But because it's not what the Father wanted for me, I wanted it. And that's what created a separation between me and the Father at the time. Until, like I said, at the age of 33, that he broke me down and I was face flat on the ground, weeping and crying, shaking in fear. I've never experienced anything like that in my whole entire life. But at no point in time, no point in time within those moments did he rebuke me, did he chastise me, or did he do anything to punish me for the wrongs that I did within that time frame. Because within those moments, I felt his presence, I knew what was going on, and I repented of everything that I've ever done. Everything. I called it out internally to him. Every single thing that I've ever done. Every single thing. I called out every single thing that I've ever done to other people. I've called out every single thing that people have ever done to me, proclaiming that I forgive them, that I will do whatever the Father wants me to do. I gave up my life that day. Not in the aspect that one chooses to give up their life, even though it was a choice. I gave up my humanity for this. I gave up all my understanding, all my feelings, all the design that I had for my life personally. I gave it all up in that very moment. Only to sit here and be called later on down the road a Satanist, a liar, a cheat, a deceiver. I've been called just about everything. I've been called a Pharisee. I've been called many things. I've been called the child of the adversary. I've been called the anti-Messiah. I've been called so many different things that do not pertain to my actual physical practice of my life for the Father's word. It's insane. All because of my understanding. All because of what I instruct and teach. Regardless, I don't know what everybody else wants to do. I can only just make suggestions, but I know the things that I have to do. So if we just continue not to adhere, if we just continue not to listen, if we just continue to think that our understanding is greater than the understanding that's been given, I only have one other option. And one other thing that I'm called to do while I'm here. And that's not continue to instruct. And that's not continue to bring you the truth if you're not willing to listen to it. It's going to cause everybody else a lot more pain. Because we choose not to listen to the messenger. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Everything that I am is plain. It can be seen. Everything that I am, my yes is my yes and my no is no. Every single thing that I say, I mean. And everything that I mean, I say. There is not a single thing. There is no shadow in there. There is no lukewarmness. There is none of that. This is how I live my life. This is how and who I am. Not because I say that's who I am, but because my actions and my life reflects it. Everywhere I go, when I meet people in person, they all state, every single one of them, I've never known a single person like you in my whole entire life. I've never, ever seen anybody like you who follows the Father's word that you do, who understands it the way that you do. There's reasons for that. Like I said, I know who the Father says that I am. And it's not all from study. I get to speak to him all the time. I get to have conversations with my Father all the time. It's not just through study. I get to physically hear him speak to me all the time. And I get to be able to physically speak to him all the time. People will sit there and say, well, that's crazy. Well, you know what? Your understanding of my crazy and my understanding of crazy are two different things. And I don't really care what your understanding of crazy is. Because it's not biblical. So people will continue to say everything that they want to say, but at the end of the day, as my anger continues to rise and build up within inside me, and that day comes when I have to unleash that anger and that wrath that has been built up, there will be no mercy. There will be no mercy when that happens. I don't have to physically do anything to anyone. I physically do not. I can fix things from a couple feet away or a couple inches away, as well as I can fix things miles upon miles away, continent from continent away. It doesn't matter because that's the power of the Father within me. I pray for everybody continually. Every single person on this earth, I pray for continually. There's not a moment that doesn't go by in my thought process that I do not think or I do not bring it before the Father for every human being, regardless of what you're going through. You are always in my prayers. Always. And if I had the means to physically do something for you, I would. But I don't have the physical means. So we can just chalk this all up to ramblings of a madman. And we can just go ahead and just throw this out. Because at the end of the day, it's not really going to matter in the scheme of things. And I don't expect it to. I don't expect anything to come of this. I don't expect this to be shared. I don't expect anything from anyone at all. Everything, all my expectations come from the Father. Everything comes from Him. That's why I have a house that I don't pay for, staying here rent free. That's why I still get food on a daily basis to be able to sustain this body. Everything is provided to me by my Father to allow me to continue in the path that He's put me on. Everything. Now, when it comes down to clothes and material things, I don't go seeking or looking after those things. So I don't have much of it or of those things. All I do know is that I have a roof over my head, thanks to my Father. I have food within my tummy that He provides for me. And I'm able to survive and live my life according to His will. So enough rambling, enough of all this. I'm going to end this video. If anything, just look past everything that I said personally about myself, because at the end of the day, it's not really going to matter to you. But what I really want everybody to do is look into the understanding that has been given to you and fully open up the Father's Word in ways that you've never opened it up before. Because I do not come across anything of the understanding that I've gained by just one position or one perspective. I use multiple upon multiple upon multiple perspectives that have to proclaim the same thing for it to be true to me. I mean, you can even, if you could talk to the Father straight out, like I talk to the Father, you could sit there and ask Him, does He believe every single thing that you say? And I guarantee that the Father will tell you absolutely not. He goes back and He makes sure that everything that I'm speaking to Him is the truth or not. If I do this for the words that the Father gives me, for the understanding that the Father gives me, what more do you think I'm going to do whenever somebody sits there and says something about what their understanding is? I look at everything. Everything. There is not one rock that is not uncovered. So, regardless of all that, I want you all to love one another, enjoy your day, don't allow the things that are happening now to affect you, because they should not affect you, because you are a child of the living Father in heaven. You are a part of His kingdom and not this kingdom. It has no rule over you in no way, shape, or form. So there's no reason to be afraid of it. There's no reason to worry about it, about what you will have, what you won't have. Let the Father provide. Let the Father do the things that He wants to do for your life. Give Him all the power that you have for yourself. Allow Him to guide you. Allow Him to move within your lives. Regardless, I love you deeply. Regardless if we're in odds, regardless of anything else, regardless meaning that it does not matter what separates us or brings us together, I love you regardless. Yahuwah bless and keep you in the name of His Son, Yahusha. Amen.